Okay, welcome to One Look Megaminx OLL episode 10. Today we're going to be covering sets 25 and 37, so just two sets this week, but set 37 is one of the big ones, so it's going to be 14 cases altogether. So that's more than we've covered in any video since the 2-look OLL video. However, we only had 10 last week, and we only have 10 next week, so hopefully it's not too overwhelming. And also, in set 37 there's a few 3x3 transfers in there, so hopefully it's not too much new information. Anyway, as always, all of the Algs that I mention will be listed down in the description, as well as links to a Megaminx OLL Trainer and my Megaminx Algs document, which contains all of the OLL and PLL Algs that I use and recommend. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. So first up we have 37B plus and minus, and 37E plus and minus. So we're not going to go through in alphabetical order, just because I think this is going to make a bit more sense. Anyway, you can see that set 37 is the one that has these three oriented edges and nothing else. So because there's so many misoriented pieces, there's a bunch of cases in this set, and the recognition for some of them can be a little bit tricky. But the recognition for these four isn't too bad, because these are the ones where we recognize that we just have one bar, right? So here with 37B, we have this 3-sticker bar and nothing else. And then with 37E, we have this 2-sticker bar and nothing else. So pretty straightforward. Oh, and then of course they're mirrors, right? Just like that. So with 37B plus, it's on the right. 37B minus is on the left. 37E plus, it's on the left-hand side, or the right of this face. And then 37E minus is on the right-hand side, or the left of this face, right? Anyway, as for algorithms, this first one here, 37B plus, is I guess a 3x3 transfer. So for this OLL on 3x3, some people use this alg, which is hedge U2 U prime R prime U, then insert, right? Just like that. And that's the alg we're going to use on Megaminx, right? So hedge U2 U prime R prime U U2 prime R prime. If you don't know that OLL on 3x3, you can also see this as being kind of like the algs we learned last week, in the sense that it's just hedge into a winter variation, right? So yeah, shouldn't be too tricky to learn, I think. Anyway, as for 37B minus, we're just going to do the inverse of that previous alg. So that's going to be from this angle, right? And this is also kind of a 3x3 transfer, but it's not as commonly used, so I just see this as, you know, a Megaminx specific alg. And it looks like this. R U2 with your left index, R prime U prime, R U R prime, U2 prime, sledge, right? Just like that. So apart from that first IDO move, it's pretty simple finger tricks. Anyway, as for 37E plus and minus, these aren't 3x3 transfers, but 37E plus here is at least, again, one of those hedge into winter variation algs. So this one we're going to do from this angle, right? And it looks like this. Hedge, U2 prime, U2 prime R prime U, U2 prime R prime, right? So very basic finger tricks, very basic turning, just like that. So pretty nice case. And then finally for 37E minus, this one we're going to do from this angle, and the alg looks like this. R prime, U prime, R, U prime, R prime, U, F prime, U prime, F, U2, R. Just like that. So it doesn't flow quite as nicely because of the you need to reload towards the end, but it's still a pretty short alg and, you know, pretty decent. Then next up we have 37D plus and minus and 37C plus and minus. So these are the cases where the recognition is a little bit tricky, or at least it'll take a bit of time to get used to, because there's a couple of things we're checking for, which is the bars and their position, and then the headlights and their position. So for all four of these cases, we have two 2-sticker bars, right? When they're on the right-hand side, it's a plus case, and when they're on the left-hand side, it's a minus case. And then once we see that, then we need to look at the headlights. So with the D cases, the headlights are on the side, here and here, and with the C cases, the headlights are at the back, there and there. So not too complicated, but just a couple of things to check for, so it might take some time to get fast at. But yeah, still reasonably straightforward. As for the algorithms, this first one here, 37D plus, we're going to do from this angle, and it looks like this. F, R prime, F prime, U prime, R, U2 prime, R, U2, R2 prime, U, R. This algorithm can actually be understood, once again, as being hedge into winter variation, right? Because you do hedge into this winter variation, but this one actually starts with R prime. So rather than completing the hedge, we just end up with F, R prime, F prime, and then cancel into this, right? Just like that. And done a bit faster. It looks like that. As for the second case, we're going to do it from this angle, and the alg looks like this. R, U to R prime, U prime, R, U to R prime, F prime, U prime, F, R, U to prime, R prime. Just like that. So, decent enough alg with decent finger tricks. For this alg here, or for this case here, we're going to do it from this angle, right? And the alg looks like this. R, U, R prime, U2, hedge, R, U2, R prime. So that last U2 is really the only complicated finger trick. The rest of it's just very basic RUF triggers. Nope. There you go. So not too bad, and should be relatively easy to learn. For that case there, sorry, 37B+, there's actually a few different algs. I showed you the one that I use, but there's, I think, like 3 or 4 different options that are decent, so you might want to check the OLL and PLL sheet and see if any of the other ones work for you. I'm not going to show all of them just because that would take a while, but yeah, you can check that for yourself. Anyway, for this last algorithm, we're going to do it from this angle, and it looks like this. Thumb on top, and the alg goes like this. R prime, U prime, R, U prime, R2 prime, F, R, F prime, U2, R. Just like that. There you go. So pretty basic finger tricks and pretty nice alg. Then here we have the final 2 cases from set 37, 37A+ and 37A-. So as you can see, these are the cases that have a 3-sticker bar and a 2-sticker bar, and then they're just mirrors. So here, the 3-sticker bar is on the left, and here the 3-sticker bar is on the right. So pretty straightforward recognition. As for the algorithms, this first one here, 37A+, we're going to do from this angle, and it's actually the inverse of 37C- that we just learned. So we're going to start from home grip this time, but the algorithm looks like this. R prime, U2 prime, hedge, then R, U, R prime, U, R, right? And dragging that final U. So done a bit faster. It looks like that. So pretty nice case, to be honest. And then this one here, 37A-, is actually the inverse of 37C+ that we just looked at. So once again, there's a lot of different ways to do this case, but I'm just going to show you the one that I use, which looks like this. R, U2 prime, R prime, sledge, U2 prime, insert, right? Just like that. So very basic finger tricks. Not quite as nice as 37A+, but still very fast. So that's set 37. And then finally we have set 25, which is the set with this sort of top pattern. So the position of this misoriented corner will tell you whether it's a plus or a minus case, right? So the plus case is ever on the left and the minus case is ever on the right, so they're mirrors as always. And then both the A and B cases have these bars, so you need to look at the relative positions of the bar and the misoriented corner. So the A cases have the bar and the corner sort of facing in opposite directions, on opposite faces, and the B cases have the bar and the corner on adjacent faces, right, like that. So a bit strange, maybe a bit different to anything you're used to, but should be pretty fast once you are used to it. You'll just take practice. As for the algorithms, this first one here, 25A+, we're going to do from this angle, so with that misoriented corner on the front left, and it looks like this. F, R, U, R2 prime, U prime, F prime, U, F, R, F prime, right? And so there's no real fancy finger tricks or anything here, it's just a relatively short algorithm with a little bit of reloading in it, right? So that's 25A+. For 25A-, there's 2 algs that you can use. The one that's probably better is from this angle, and it looks like this. R prime, U prime, L, hedge, L prime, UR, right? Like that. I don't personally use this as my main alg because I find it a little bit inconsistent, but it is probably the best alg once you are used to it. And once I practiced it more, I'm sure I'll use it as my main alg. But the alg that I use as my main one is actually from this angle, and it's an RUF thing, which is also pretty fast, just not quite as short as the RULF thing that I just showed. But this one here is R, U, R2 prime, F prime, U prime, F, U, R2, U2 prime, R prime. Just like that. So flows pretty nicely and just, you know, pretty basic IUF finger tricks. So try them both out and see which one works for you, or use both because they're different angles. Next we have 25B+. So this alg we're going to do from this angle, right, with, I guess, the misoriented corner in the back left, and the alg looks like this. You don't have to, you can start from home grip or with thumb on top. I find thumb on top a little bit easier, and they're about the same speed, so I just do it from this grip. But the alg looks like this. R prime, U2, R, U2, show with my left index there, then R prime, hedge, U, R, right? Just like that. So again, it's an okay algorithm. Not amazing, but pretty easy. Because, you know, it's Megaminx OLL, it's all pretty easy. And then finally we have 25B-. So once again, there's two algs for this case. A shorter, less ergonomic one, and a longer, slightly more ergonomic one. So I use both of them, but I guess experiment with them and see which one works for you. The first one is from this angle, right? With the most oriented corner in the very back up here, and the alg looks like this. Hedge, U2, R, U, R prime, U prime, R, U2 prime, R prime. So once again, this is an alg that you can see as, I guess, hedge into winter variation, just like a lot of the ones we've covered recently, and it's just pretty basic finger tricks, like that. And the second option is from this angle, right? So the misoriented corner in the front left, and it looks like this. F, R, U to R prime, F prime, U prime, F, R, U, R prime, sorry, R, U prime, R prime, F prime, right? Just like that. Oh. So I find this fractionally slower personally. I don't normally mess it up as much. There we go. So I find that a little bit slower personally, but I use both of them because they are different angles. But yeah, try both of them out and see which one works for you. Anyway, that's the video.